Good morning, all. I hope you're able to hear me and to see. It's terrific to see so many people online today to hear for the last SUMERNET for All training session focused on communications. Obviously, communications is one of our key elements in our SUMERNET projects. It's really about making sure that we connect with our audiences, engage the right people, and ensure that our research and our projects have impact and influence way after the time that we've stopped actually doing the work. So on that note, I'd just like to say a big warm welcome to everyone. My name's Leonie Pearson. I'm the research coordinator for the SUMERNET program. And today we're going to do the training by Rajesh and his team of excellent personnel that are located here at the Stockholm Environment Institute. As always, please engage as much as possible. Turn on your microphones, answer questions. That gets a lot more out of the training for this training over almost 13 different projects. So we look forward to hearing and seeing all of your different perspectives. Thank you and enjoy the morning.
Thank you very much, Leonie. Hello, everyone. My name is Rajesh Daniel. I'm the coordinator for the communications component 3 of SUMERNET for All. Very good morning to all of you. Thanks for joining us on this last training. Last, but I hope not least. Today's training, I'm joined by two other colleagues whom you will see shortly. And we're going to talk to you about communications. We're going to talk to you about website. We're going to talk to you about how to plan for better communications and outreach. And we are here to support you to get your research out there to the world. So the agenda, just to briefly go through what we have for you today, is about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to begin with about 20 minutes on the comms strategy and planning to give you an idea of what is involved in comms planning. This will be followed by our media fellow, Nguyen. We are going to do a quick poll on different things that I will talk about, for example, audiences and output, so we get an idea of what you are trying to do. And after that, we are going to talk of the website, because for SUMERNET for All, website is a key part of how we want the partners to feel an ownership over the program. And we will go through different parts of the website, how we can contribute and how we can help. And we will wrap up with maybe around 10 minutes or more of questions about communications, about support, about the website, how you can contribute, and so on. So let's start this with talking about the strategy. We do have a communication strategy. It has been recently approved by the SC, and we're doing a layout, and it will be publicly available for the partners soon. But let me go through it briefly, not the entire strategy, of course, but the key things that are relevant for this training. So I will go through what is comms planning, what are goals, who your audiences are, outputs that you should be doing or thinking of, and how you can learn, and then what you should do in terms of a budget and a work plan. So effective comms means you need some goals. Your research project already has goals. Comms can be part of those goals. Once you have a set of goals for what you want your comms to achieve, then we can figure out, okay, who are these audiences that can best suit those goals? Who are the channels that we should be using? What kind of outputs? Do we need more movies? Do we need flyers in the local languages? So in order to do all of that, the very first basic foundation of comms is your goals. Now, let's look at what these comms goals can be. I have here, as you can see from the screen, a few examples, and this is from a review of your own projects, but also from past experience of SUMERNET projects. Usually, these are the key goals that comms have. For example, one thing that is very common to our research projects is we want to raise awareness of the issue. Maybe you have a feeling that there is this knowledge gap, and it has to be given out to people. You feel that this is the important part of your research. Or one of your comms goal may be there is a conflict or a difference of opinion, a perspective in a certain area, and you want a dialogue to reach a kind of a compromise solution or even to explore solutions. Or third thing, you may be very policy oriented. You have the research, you have your findings. How can we change policy or influence policy or even practice? And this can be at different levels. It doesn't have to be national. It can be maybe a certain practices on water insecurity in your area. Maybe that is a comms goal for you. Or sometimes you're looking for a stakeholder to reach out and influence, and which means you want to get your research to them. It can be an organization, it can be a think tank, it could be a very powerful local minister. That's also part of your comms goal. Or just in terms of visibility of your own organization, you have done research on water insecurity. You want to increase the visibility of your organization, of your staff, of your work, your knowledge, expertise. Maybe you have a website you want more traffic to. This can also be part of your comms goals. And here's the thing, you don't have to have only one of these, but you do have to prioritize. Maybe you can have raising awareness and the website. That can be 2 comms goals, for example. So think about this as we go along in this training. What is the goal of your communications? Which leads me to, once you have goals, you'll need to figure out who do you want to reach? Because this is where we need to be strategic. We cannot say, for example, we need to reach everyone. There are, of course, constraints on something like that, and also effectiveness. There is no point probably in trying to reach everyone. So there is a need to be strategic and also specific. Who are these audiences that you want to reach? And I will go through them so that you have an understanding of what it means when we say strategic audiences. For example, in maybe a research project, you're looking at domestic water usage and water shortages in a rural area. Let's assume that your goal is to change rural water policies, and you're trying to figure out access and rights and sharing. And you're also focusing on vulnerable groups. There are certain groups, maybe ethnic communities, maybe women in ethnic communities who are affected by water shortages. Maybe it's elderly, maybe it's poorer households. So we're also talking about vulnerable communities within those, which means, and in this example, your key audience will be the rural communities. And then you can unpack them and say, within those, these vulnerable communities, these ethnic communities, and so on. At the same time, the secondary audience may be, or vice versa, depending. And in this project, if you're focusing on local area and policy, a secondary audience may be the government agencies responsible for rural water supply. Again, the point I'm trying to make here is in this example, we have to be very specific. We cannot just say, oh, the water ministry in Bangkok or in Hanoi. You have to be very specific. Maybe the line agency, maybe even relates to the agriculture ministry that is relating to this area. You have to figure out in your research, you would have already figured out who are the key stakeholders. So then that would be your strategic audience. You can also add other things. For example, the Department of Rural Women's Affairs. Maybe they are interested in helping vulnerable communities. So you kind of figure out within your stakeholders, strategically, whom should I reach out to? Whom should I influence? And then they become part of your communications goals. And you can have really effective communications if you do that. So this was what I've just said. So let's move on to outputs. When we mean outputs, what we basically mean is how do we reach out to people? So for example, and of course, this is, you have to keep in mind, of course, that you cannot do everything. You may need to choose depending on your budget, depending on your constraints, depending also on your own team, how much expertise or skills they have. Maybe you have a comms team or you have support from communications people. Maybe you have expertise in certain things and not in others. You have to decide also. figure out what ways you can be effective using what outputs. Here, I'm just giving some examples which we have used in the past. For example, flyers, posters, infographics. These are easy ways to get your research through. If you've got your research concept note or a research proposal, you sit with your team and try to figure out a two-pager maybe. Maybe that can be translated into a local language and then distributed in the local area. Or it can be a small booklet for your policymaker saying, this is the research that you're planning to do, or this is the key knowledge gap that you're planning to address. Maps are also an effective, very effective way. People are always interested in getting a bird's eye view of their area or the problem. And if you can, in the map, you can link it to different information or data, then it's a really very powerful tool to reach out to people. Make sure that you're using simple language. We have research proposals, we have research concept notes. Sometimes it's little dense. People may not understand it. It's also sometimes difficult to translate. So try to make sure that you have simple, non-technical information, not too much jargon. If there are abbreviations, make it simple. You can use short videos to go with it. You can interview people. You can have workshops. These are also a channel where you use this information. So you have a workshop with the stakeholders. You give out these flyers and the people read and understand and have time to think about, okay, this is what this project is doing. Also, in terms of website or social media, which will come through later, it can be very effective channel to reach out to people. Facebook and Twitter, we know, but as we found out in previous trainings, people are also using Line as a means of communication, or WhatsApp. You can have a group, you can have your own research group with your communities in it, where you can provide information through the Line app. And then, of course, you have radio and television, which take a little bit more expertise to try and do, but it's very effective. So this kind of covers channels and tools and target audiences. I just want to say timing is also important. Plan ahead. So, for example, maybe there is an important water festival in your local area, and you know that it's going to be a big gathering of people. Maybe some of the key policymakers are going to be there, and you already know this is happening in 8 months' time. Plan for it. Try to be there with your information, with your flyers and maps. Reach out to people. It's an excellent way of networking with people. So look out for events, or plan your events to coincide with other things that are happening. And again, as I have stressed, be strategic about your outreach. Some of the things that we do, we found in the past, we've been very effective at, but this one, monitoring, we have not. Somehow, because we've done a comms, then we keep moving on because also of time, also of resources. But it's very important to try and figure out what worked best. Figure it out, because then you can do it better. Maybe the flyer was too long. Maybe the map was too dense. Maybe the podcast was too complicated. So figure out also feedback. Ask people, okay, what did you think of our booklet? Did you maybe it needed more photographs, So it's very simple to do this. It's not a big monitoring plan, but just keep getting feedback and keep improving. For example, you can have some list of all your products that you've done and a bit of feedback. And then you can sit down again at the end of the year and say, okay, next time we need to do more radio spots. These was the most effective, something like that. So keep monitoring and learning. And in this sense, a list of what you've done is very useful, so that you have at the end of the year or the end of the project, how much comms you've done and how much of it was effective, how many meetings you held and where, and how much policy engagement was done, how much social media was done. I mean, these are very easy to collect as well. If you go to Twitter and search for it, you can find out all the messages relating to your tweets and so on. So, but this is important to do, because then you can get better at it every time you do it. And the last thing is, of course, keep a little budget for yourself for comms. It's very important to do it at the very beginning of your project, because in quite a few cases, and SUMERNET, of course, has improved over the years from early years where people would suddenly come at the end of a 2-year, 3-year project and say, oh my God, we need to do comms. Plan for it earlier, because comms, you want to be effective. You don't want it to be an end of the pipeline thing where you're saying, okay, can we do a booklet of these findings? Already plan for it, make a budget, make sure that there are people involved, reach out to us for support. Our secretariat and our comms team is here, and integrate everything into your research plan. Obviously, it may not be able to do the whole 2 to 3 years of your project. You can do it for a year at a time. The first year, I want to do these things. You can ask us, okay, is this a good thing for our project with this money? And we can give you advice saying, yeah, put a little more money on this area. That may be more effective. So try and plan for it ahead, at least a year in advance with a bit of budget, and figure out, if possible, in your team, someone who can do this. Maybe you have young people who are interested in social media and line groups. Keep them in charge of reaching out in social media. Maybe one of your senior people has an extensive network of policymakers. They can be in charge of reaching out to policymakers. So make sure it's always in your mind, how do I do this outreach? So you have your research going, you also have your outreach going. I hope, and we did not want to make it too complicated, so I hope that's a good, simple but effective summary of what communications planning and strategy will be like in your projects. We look forward, of course, to hearing more and interacting more with all of you. Now, as I said, we would like to go to a poll where we will look at some of these things that I talked about, just to get feedback from you. And that will help us also in the last session, which we will talk about our website. So I now hand over to Nguyen, our media fellow, to do the poll. Nguyen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, and good morning, everyone. My name is Nguyen, and I'm currently a media fellow under the SUMERNET for All fellowship scheme, and I support component 3, which is communications. So now let's move to the poll on our favorite and very familiar platform, Vivox. So as you already know from previous trainings, we just put the link in the chat box for you. Click on the link and access the poll, or you can just use your phone to scan the QR code on the screen and access the poll. So some of the questions on the poll just reflect back to Rajesh's presentation, and it will help us understand your need better and help us plan how to better support you in effective communications. So let's move to the first question. So as Rajesh mentioned in his presentation, know your audience is very important. You might have key audience or secondary audience. And when you find out who your key audiences are, you can set out a better strategy to target them. So please type in the poll who are your expected key audiences. Maybe they are knowledge producers, academia, or policy influencers like think tanks or NGOs, or policymakers and practitioners, or others. Okay, we'll give you a few seconds. Oh, okay. We have some answers already. Policymakers, local governments, very good. Okay, a lot of you target policymakers. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also good to identify like which government levels, like central level or like local level. Okay. Knowledge producers, NGOs. Okay, farmers or communities, yes. Okay, very good. Mm. Oh, yeah, just wait a few more seconds. More people are typing in the answers. Okay, very good. Provincial level, okay. Okay, now we move to the second question. Okay, what communication approaches do you plan to use for each of these? Your method or focus group discussion, good. Seminar, workshop, policy brief, yes. Okay, you use social media and website, very good. Interviews, consultations. Okay, getting involved in project activities. Yeah. Sharing findings, okay. Field visit, good. Survey, okay. Personal communication for specific groups. Okay, dialogue. Okay. Very good. Okay, I know you still have a lot to share, but we need to move on to the next question in the interest of time. Okay. Okay, and what are your expected outputs? What kind of media products, communication products that you are planning on putting out? Like Rajesh mentioned a few in his presentation, like flyers or posters, or it can be short videos or infographics, maybe, or a perspective piece on a local newspaper. Action. Oh, short films. Very good. Okay. News stories. Okay. Guidelines, very good. Research journals, okay. Significant changes, very good. Scenarios, yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, we will discuss these results in more detail in the Q&A actions. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move to the next question, please. Okay, this is very important for us to understand your need so that we can plan on how to help you better in effective communications. So what kinds of communication support that you need? You see the results. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, how to do infographic, social media, outline editing, yes. Design good policy brief, writing short news, very specific, okay. Face-to-face communications, online communication, yes. Short videos, okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to learn more about social media, we will discuss that in the next section. So, yeah. Okay. A lot of interest in making videos and short films. Very good. What about proofreading or editing journals, maybe? Okay. Okay. Some requests on how to write good policy brief on writing. Okay. Okay, so Miss Nang suggests that good to have writing workshop. Okay, thanks for your suggestion. Okay, let's move on to the last question of the poll. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna cover social media next. So it's good for us to know what is the most popular social media platform in your country. Some chose TikTok. So the most popular platform is Facebook. Okay, YouTube. Okay. TikTok. I think TikTok is gaining more popularity. Yeah. Okay, Facebook. Yeah, so Facebook and TikTok, and then YouTube and Instagram. Interesting. What about Twitter? Yeah. I'm living here in Thailand, and I can see that Twitter is quite popular here actually. But when I was in Vietnam, Facebook is clearly the more popular platform. Okay, TikTok. All right. Thank you. We noted down some of your answers, and we will go into detail in the Q&A. So now pass over to Rajesh to talk more about our website and other things. Thank you for participating in the poll.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is everything sound, video good? Okay. So thank you everyone for participating in that poll. It was very useful for us, of course. We know now what you're thinking of. We also know that you're planning ahead with your audiences and outputs, an excellent range of audiences and outputs. Obviously, not too many surprises there because we did expect that you will reach out to academic and policymakers. But I think for the policymakers, as Nguyen said, try to be a little more specific, local level, line agencies, transboundary level, and so on. And then that will help us better. And of course, in terms of outputs, again, it's a wide range from design and infographics to scenarios and TV. So we will see what fits as we go along in our projects. Obviously, today we will not be able to take up each and every one of those from the poll, but now that we have an understanding, and for example, also your needs, we can catch up with it. And I also see that sometimes, like for example, Shining has written that you need a writing workshop. That's also very useful to know because other than our remote support, we might even be able to have more physical engagement if travel permits and try to do some writing workshops with your projects or try and get up some projects in each country. Let's see what happens. So now that we have that idea, we want to go into the last part of our training. And we wanted to focus, as I said, on the website. One, because it's quite a key platform for our network, but also as we have very frequently emphasized, we want the partners to have ownership of the network, and we feel that the website allows that. It will allow you to contribute, to share, and so we are encouraging you to use the website platform, among other things, so that you can get greater ownership of this network, your network. In this part, I'm going to look at the website and show you one key feature of the website, which is the stories. And then I will be followed by my colleague, Kate, who will talk of other things like multimedia and social media. And then we will also want to look at languages because we do not want to be we are right now a very predominantly English-oriented network, but we are trying to change that as well. And in the future, we will have maybe translations in the website, different language products, and we want to explore that as well. And Nguyen will do that. So let's start with the SUMERNET website. As you can see, and you can also open it in your own screens while you're listening to this, we have redesigned this website to make it a little more easier to search and find things, to explore, and also to participate and contribute. The main thing that I want to highlight here for you, for your contribution to the website, is this section on the third tab. As you can see, stories above in the bar above. And this is a special tab we have, which we want to encourage people to contribute stories of people around the Mekong. Stories from your field site, of your interactions, photos, little blogs. And I think this can enrich the experience of being in this network. People find out not only what you're doing, but sometimes similar things that you're doing, and can reach out and you can help or share information and so on. How to write and submit stories to the SUMERNET website is what I'm going to talk to here. We have, as you can see, if you open the stories, we have put it up just for this training, especially the web content template. We will send it to you again as well if you cannot download it or for some reason you cannot access this. This shows you how you can submit a story. Now, as I said, yes, we are limited by English language for now, but in future we will do translations. But at least for now, see if you can submit us stories, short ones, like it says 600 to 900 words, not more, from your own experience, from your own projects. Before you begin, these are the things that we would like you to consider, and this is in the template as well. What is the main point you want to make? So if you're writing a story, think, okay, I've been in the field, I've interviewed people, we had a workshop, we met a policymaker, different things happened. I would like to write a story and send it to Rajesh and Kate and Nguyen for this website. What should I do? You cannot write about everything. It kind of dilutes the message. It makes it a little more difficult. Maybe pick one. Maybe your interaction with the local community was really wonderful. You got some good interviews. Make that little story and say, local perspectives on water insecurity from Anjiam province, for example. And a couple of photos. This then relates to my second thing that you need to think about. Who are you writing this for? So you think, okay, I'm going to do this story. I'd like to do this on the local community here. This will appeal to the civil society people working in this area. So then you can write it in that sense where they understand what the story is. So think about this. And of course, as we said, we will try and help you as much as possible through email, but also if possible through writing workshops eventually. But use this template, think about it, and try to send us some stories. And as I said, don't take it too long. The first draft can be 2,000 words, that's fine. But try and cut it down and make it around, a page is around 500 words. So make it around a page and a half. And if you can send us a couple of photographs, that'd be brilliant. And then we'll feature it in the website, and then we can share it around to the network. Now, the different parts of the story, just very briefly, is that you need a title. You can start with a working title, just to focus your mind. Issues of local indigenous communities in Shan State in accessing water. That can be one. And then we can work the title around later. But start with the working title. Make sure the title is descriptive, but also interesting, because people search on Google for things. So if you were to say, for example, indigenous Shan ethnic women and water, you'll have a higher visibility. So think in terms of those also. A short introduction, which again helps you focus your mind. This is what I want to say. How can I say it in 2 or 3 sentences? Draft a few times and then you can send it to us and we can help you with it. The main purpose of the again is because people are, as we all know, deluged with information. We need to attract them quickly. Most people, and research also proves, that they look at the introduction just to figure out if it's of value to them, if it's of interest to them, and only then they go. So the introduction is very key, and we spend a lot of time editing and helping people with that introduction. Think of 2 to 3 sentences that describe the piece that you're doing, not the research project itself, but that piece. What do you want to say? And then do that. And this can help attract people to read the rest of it. Otherwise, they'll be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. And then in the template, you'll have the rest of it. You can write your actual story, put in your interviews, your findings. It depends on what kind of story you're writing, and we can, again, help you with that. And again, we emphasize, try to keep these stories short. It's easy to people to read. And with a couple of photographs, you can get very good reach. So thank you. That was about stories. Now I will quickly hand over to my colleague, Kate Siri, who will talk a little bit about multimedia and social media, which, as we've seen in your poll, are very important outreach channels for you. Kate.
Hello, do you see my screen? Okay. Okay, so let's start with podcast. Okay, let's start with podcast. So before you start your podcast program, so you have to make a clear plan for your podcast, like who is your target audience, like you want to communicate to policymakers in your country, or you want to communicate with your network, international network, or your partner, or you want to communicate with the academic people like researchers, or you want to communicate with villager or general public. So I mean, each target audience have like different culture, different style that they consume the news or the podcast. So you should define the target audience at the beginning of your plan. Then prepare the form of your program, your podcast program. Like there are many kind of podcast program like talk show, interview, or you can host by yourself, like do the monologue as well. And then you should to write the script and prepare the interview questions. In case you want to interview some hosts, you want to host and interview some people, some experts. So you need to invite the host, invite the guest, and for guests you have to do some research a little bit, like who can be speak about your topic, about the topic that you want to present. And then write a script for the whole podcast, and then start the record. For the record, if you have a guest, you need to prepare. You need to inform them what they should do during the record. For example, stay in a quiet room, tell them to be relaxed, and if they say something wrong, we can cut and retake, re-record. And if they prepare, and if your interviewee prepare the script, so please tell them that try not to read it because we want them to be natural, something like that. And for the online recording, like you record to Skype or Teams or Zoom. So please be aware of the internet connection. It's very critical issue, because SUMERNET communication team experienced doing the online recording, and it's like we have some problem with the internet connection when we call our guests. And so if you have an internet connection, it will affect the quality of the audio as well. And after you finish the record, so you have to do the intro and outro. Like the intro should last like 15 seconds. like okay, welcome, like you can say like welcome to the podcast, and you say your title and like just one short sentence about your podcast, and then you do the outro, like thank you for listening to this podcast, and please leave the please leave your feedback at your email, blah blah blah, something like that, and then you edit your what you record. So 15 minutes are the perfect length of podcast. And the last one, after you finish edit and everything, so don't forget to think about the promotion and the promotion of your podcast, like where you can share your podcast and where to publish as well. Like you can publish the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. That's it. And then move to the social media. So for now, from the poll, I saw that many countries use many social media like Facebook and TikTok. But for SUMERNET, we now have Twitter and Facebook page. So I will talk about Twitter, SUMERNET Twitter first. So okay, so for Twitter, what you need to be aware is the word limits, because the text content of a tweet can contain up to only 280 characters. So please thinking of like summarize the of the article that you want to share on Twitter, and prepare use the right hashtags. Like for SUMERNET, we use like SUMERNET for all, which is the title of our current phase. And then thinking of who you want to mention on your tweet. Like for example, if you see the photo, so this is the blog that Leonie wrote, and she reflects on the report of the international reports about the gender in the Mekong region. So it's like you mentioned who wrote this article, and you mentioned who wrote the report. Yeah, and use the right hashtags. For example, in this tweet, we want to highlight the gender, women, and marginalized people. And okay, so now you can do on Twitter, you can do the Twitter poll as well. So to gain like people opinion or your follower opinion, you can also do the Twitter polls. So look at the photo on your right hand. So you can create the Twitter poll and ask them like what you want to read or what you want to see, or ask their opinion. And the last one is a Facebook page. Actually, Facebook has two functions for the organization. It is a page and Facebook groups. But now we focus on Facebook page because like I saw that many organizations usually have their own Facebook page. So for the Facebook page, it's very simple, and it's like your Facebook profile, your normal is similar to your normal Facebook profile, your personal profile. So you can post content and the content from your website regularly, and just assign 1 to 2 administrator to manage the page. Like post is like about 3 times a day. And that's it. So I will over to Nguyen and Rajesh for the Q&A section.
Thank you, Kay. I will just talk a little bit about uses of different languages in your communication work. So I understand that for the Mekong region, sometimes it could be more convenient or it could be more effective if you communicate in your local language so you can reach more people. So we just want to hear from you, like if you prefer to write in your local language for communication products, like news stories or perspective pieces on local medias, and how we can support that. So please feel free to share your thoughts with us on this language issue. Okay, any volunteers? Or I will just call on some people here. Dr. Bùi Đức Tín, do you want to share your thoughts? Dr. Tín, are you still there? Okay, maybe think about that and we can go back to it later. So now we move to the Q&A with Rajesh.
Thank you, Nguyen. So we thought since we're also nearing the end of our time, we can move into Q&A and you can add your thoughts on the languages as well. So we want to do a quick 10-minute Q&A where you have any questions or issues that you want to ask us, things about the website, about comms, about your own comms planning. We want to give an opportunity to you. This is an open Teams meeting, so you're all free to raise questions and talk, and you can also write text message in the chat. So let's do about 10 minutes of questions, and we will try and respond to as many as we can. Well, the chat box already. Nang Shining says, what is the strategy to have more people engage to the post? Shining, can you say, when you say post, can you say which medium you're talking of? Is it Facebook? You can just write it in the chat, then we can respond. Is it Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, website? Where are you posting, Shining?
Thank you, Rajesh. I'm talking about Facebook page.
Okay, so let me hand over to Kate, who is very good on Facebook, to answer that.
Okay, so it depends on the time. Like actually, you can Google Facebook traffic, so you see like how when people spend time on Facebook, like as I understand and as I do the SUMERNET page, so most of the time people using or checking their Facebook page is 9 in the morning, 9 to 10 in the morning, and at around 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. in the evening. Yeah, and you can ask your Facebook follower to click like and get the notification from your page. So then they will notify that, okay, you post something and they check your Facebook page. Yeah. In case they don't see your post on their new feed. Yeah.
Thank you ค่ะ
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Kate. I hope that was useful, Shining. So another question from Achan Chantana about assessment of which platforms work for which agenda and any comparisons. I'm sorry, Achan Chantana, we ourselves have not done any such thing for SUMERNET, but I can tell you that this, again, we depends on the audience that you want to reach out. For example, and this is something that we did not mention, media can be a very powerful platform. If you have, for example, opinion piece in the Bangkok Post, you can reach many policymakers in the region. But at the same time, if your audience is not the policymakers in the region and maybe it's a local community, then you have to try something else. So I think the comparison of platforms will depend on, as we said, your strategic audience. I hope that's useful, Krab Achan Chandana. Another question from Achan Chandana. Any messages sent out by the SUMERNET project? Key messages from research project? Any example? Do we assume that is in a social media or when she says messages? Achan Chandana, can you explain a little bit? We're not sure we understand the question.
I'm not sure myself. No, I was expecting that a project on water governance, water security would send some message out of the project to the public that you know, to, I don't know, maybe identify crisis or to lead to certain policy change, something that capture people's attention and mind, you know, as a result of the project, and that would start a process of public discussion or something like that.
Okay. In the past, what we've done is we've usually done it at the end of the project. We publish a booklet of where we put together all the policy briefings and all the key messages of the projects. This may include also key findings. In the past, we've done that because most projects have key messages only at the end. In this phase, we're encouraging people to come up with it earlier. And we're also not going to do it at the very end with just one booklet, but we're going to do a range of things. So yes, a very important question. We encourage the projects to come to us and say, these are the key messages, what can we do? And let's figure out how we can reach out. Maybe we can do some flyers, maybe it can be a tweet, maybe it's a small video. Let's do that.
Yeah, so Minu, please turn on your mic and say your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I just would like to know one thing about the SUMERNET website. What I would like to know is in the future, how many languages that you are planning to use in your website? For example, now you mainly use English language, but in the future, do you have any plan to use other languages, like other country languages, like Burmese and something, Thailand, something like that? Because if we, I just have an idea, like if you can use this kind of different languages that belong to different countries, so we can also inform to our audience, like if you have a Myanmar languages for your story on some other website, so we can also bring this kind of information to our audience, Myanmar audience, for example, from my Facebook page or my Facebook friends or something like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Menu. Yes, very critical issue here. We are very keen to expand beyond English. We have been trying for almost a year now to get the website ready. And we hope that slowly we will do one language almost per year, because the back end of needs to be reformatted and redesigned every time you have add a new language. But in the meantime, while we get the website ready to do more languages, we are also encouraging people to send us in their own languages. Maybe the blogs can be, it can be in Burmese, or it can be in Vietnamese, and we can put it in the present website as an attachment. So we can say, for example, the English blog will be there, and then we can say, also please find attached the Vietnamese version or the Laotian version or the Karen version. So we are very happy to do that, as if, very sorry that we cannot offer translation services, but if you're able to translate and get it reasonably edited, we are very happy to put it in the website as an extra language attachment. So, and we're very, very keen to do this. So thank you for bringing it up again.
Thank you very much.
Also ask Kate to respond to Facebook boosting for effective communication.
Actually, because of the algorithm of the Facebook that affect people new feed, like if they don't visit your page a lot, so the algorithm will try to forget your page and try to on their new feed, they will see like just their friend that they talk a lot with, that they talk a lot. So for Facebook boosting, I actually SUMERNET never use Facebook boosting, but you can try, but I'm not sure about the outcome, or like yeah, but I mean for me, I would recommend you told your follower that okay, please please setting the notification from your page. That, and then when you post something, when they set the notification, Facebook will send the notification to the followers.
Thank you, Kate. So moving on to the other questions, a couple more from Achan Chantana. Media for change, a message that shakes people's mind. Definitely, we'll keep that in mind. This might be a good time to also for me to remind people that your local media, your own media people in your own country, reach out to them, try to build contact with them, interact with them. And we also have in SUMERNET, because we realize the importance of media people and journalists, a media fellowship. And you saw Nguyen, who was presenting earlier. She is she is a Vietnamese TV journalist who has joined us for a year to do a media fellowship. And then when she goes back, we are hoping that she will expand our SUMERNET reach within Vietnam as well. So think of media outreach as well. The other question from Achan Chatna is, what is a good communication strategy? We will be putting up our SUMERNET communication strategy on the website. As I said, it's being formatted to make it look nice. You can look at it and then reach out to me and say which parts you don't understand or which parts will fit for you in your own projects. So we have maybe 5 more minutes if you have any questions. I just answered. So the call for fellowships, for media fellowships, has just gone out. The deadline is this weekend on the 8th. So in your own projects, please reach out to your younger media people or professionals that you know and alert them to this opportunity. It has to be based in Bangkok for a year, working with the secretariat, but then helping different projects to write about their key messages and their findings. So it's a good opportunity for people who are already in the media field, but also others if they want to have experience and who are going to enter the media field. So I thought we'll just promote that opportunity now because the deadline is coming up very soon. So I think no more questions. I think I will hand over back to. Sorry? Oh, podcast. Okay, Agus has a question. Gate, can you answer this one? Podcast is considered new for me. What would be the benefit of podcast compared to other media?
I can share some of my thoughts and then maybe Kay can offer some more insights. Thank you, Agus, for the question. Yes, I think podcast is relatively new for many of us, especially in the Mekong region. Let's see, when do I usually listen to a podcast? When my ears are free, but my eyes are occupied. For example, when I'm cooking or doing housework or like laundry or ironing my clothes. So it is a very good way to learn new knowledge while you don't have to like stare at the screen all the time. And I take it from my friends' experiences. They listen to podcasts when they're driving instead of like listening to music, or if you have long commute and you have to travel a lot. I recommend podcasts where you can learn new knowledge. I think it's actually podcast has been around for a while, for a long time, but it's just quite new to us, and this is something that we want to try out because I see it as the next hot thing. Yeah, according to a Thomson Reuters Foundation survey, which was published in 2018. If you are interested in trying our podcast, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We will share with you what we learned from doing the podcast series and also some of the materials that you can prefer to and producing your own podcast.
Can I, Kate, do you want to add to it? Okay.
Okay, so for the podcast, the best thing is that compared to video or video on YouTube, it's like for podcast, it consumes less mobile data than video on YouTube. So people listen to podcast when they commuting. Yeah.
And thank you, Nguyen and Kate. So just a last addition to that excellent information is that our background to getting into podcasts was because we thought we wanted to get expertise and knowledge of various people in our own network and record them and make it available, because not everyone has time to read. As Nguyen said, sometimes it's also not just time to read, but you're occupied with other things. You can just put your headphones on. So I've sent the link to our first series, which was on climate change and water insecurity. You can check those podcasts out and then see if it works for you, because as I said, not every output will work in your own project. Okay, any other questions? Facebook is only for your follow, maybe your friends. Yes, we do agree Facebook is not a formal source of information for policymakers. However, this is what we've been also saying, that you need a mix. So maybe there are people who are both in the community as well as outside in policymaking region, in circles, who see Facebook posts, and if you have a Facebook group, for example, in your project, maybe they see it. And then they're alerted to the fact that you're doing this interesting research. So Facebook may not be a formal channel, but it can be a good way of alerting people and getting people's attention. And then you can always follow up. Maybe they give a comment saying, oh, it's very interesting. Then you can follow up with your 2-pager or your project report or your official meeting also. So again, all of these channels are here for us to use wisely and strategically. Don't try to use only one, or don't try to use all. See what works and also when. Any other questions?
Can I add some insight on Dr. Tin's question? As a journalist, I usually try to reach out to experts or academia on social media as well. So as Rajesh said, that Facebook is a great way for you to build your audience and followers. Because if like local journalists pick up on the information that you're sharing or the work that you're sharing on your Facebook, they might write stories about it, and then hopefully those stories will reach out to more people, and maybe including policy makers. So I do believe that there's a lot of benefit in promoting your work on social media.
Okay, I think we are running out of time. I'll just answer these last two questions. Do we support research groups to make postcard? Please contact us and we can work with you on how exactly you want and what messages you want. And Nang Shining, for podcast channel on your website, we suggest we use SoundCloud, which is a podcast platform that we're using. And all you have to do is take a link and put it in the website. So you don't need an extra space on your website. Just make sure that you can have a link to the blog of the podcast. So with that, I think we should wrap up, and we will give it over to Leonie for closing comments. Thank you very much to everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Rajesh, Ming, and Cade, for some really good insights about how our messages from the projects that we're doing here at SUMERNET can really connect with a variety of different audiences. I think we've only just started the conversation, though. What channel? Is it a podcast? Is it a Facebook? Is it what is it that really would connect with the audience that we want? And how do we target that message so that we get the information through that we'd like in a way that really creates a good uptake? So a big thanks to the whole team here. I'd also like to extend the thanks to the technical support from Agus and Unchali and the others who have done an excellent job in making sure that we've got a smooth interaction between our presenters, our polls, and of course now I'm going to throw over to a survey that we do at the end of each of our training sessions, so we can also learn what works, what doesn't work, and we can make these trainings better for you into the future. My final thank you really is to all of the participants online. It's the quality of questions that we've been having is just terrific. They make us think, they make you think, and they make everyone really reflect on how they can do their projects better, how they can get greater impact, greater input, and greater influence across all of the audiences that we'd like. So in this final stage, while we've got the survey coming up, I'm sure Argus is just about to put that up, I'd really like to make a big thank you to the whole team of everyone online today and for the previous training experiences with really inputting your ideas and thoughts. I know that we've only just started to touch today on some questions around what is a podcast? How does it work? How does this relate to the same audience as a Facebook or a Twitter? Or what does that mean? And I think it sounds like we need some more chance to have some of the more interaction, either face-to-face or through mediums like this, so you can really do a good Q&A, questions and answers, so that we can direct your projects in ways that are really useful. With that, I'd like to direct you to that VVox link. So please jump on, have a look at the survey, fill it out so that we can all reflect on what worked and what didn't, or what we could do better next time. And in conclusion, I'd just like to say thank you. And this is our last training for SUMERNET for this series. We will be coming back next year, and we will be asking for more questions and more input, and we'll be targeting the training to needs that you want as well. So if you've got any thoughts, please reach out to any one of us that you've seen on our trainings to date. Our advisors in human rights, conflict, ethics, and and obviously policy and research training as well, or anyone in the SUMERNET Secretariat that you've seen, or even the SUMERNET Steering Committee. All of us are working as a team to ensure that we have a SUMERNET program that's really effective and efficient, and also that we address the real issues around water insecurity across the Mekong. So with that, a huge thank you to everyone. I don't think there's anyone else that would like to speak. So a big thank you and goodbye, but please fill out the survey as you go. So thank you all. Bye.